Okay, let's unpack this. If you were to walk into a bar, a gym, or scroll through Twitter, X, and ask a random person to name the face of modern wrestling, you're going to hear names like Roman Reigns. You'll hear Cody Rhodes, maybe even The Rock. But if you sit down with a true student of the game, someone who, understands the granular mechanics of storytelling inside the squared circle, they aren't just looking at the guy holding the main belt.
No.
They're looking at the catalyst.
The engine.
Exactly, the engine. And for the last decade, specifically within the greatest storyline arguably in the history of the business, the Bloodline Saga, that engine has been Jonathan Fatu.
Yeah.
You know him, I know him, and the world knows him as Jimmy Uso.
It is fascinating that you frame him as the catalyst, because for such a long time, the narrative on Jimmy was reductive. It was so simple.
Right.
He was just a twin. He was half of a tag team. He was Rikishi's son. But if you look at the data we have here, the match psychology, the long-term storytelling beats, and the emotional turning points, Jimmy Uso isn't a supporting character.
Not at all.
He is the chaotic stabilizer of the entire Anoa'i dynasty.
Chaotic stabilizer. I like that. That's good. We're going to have to dig into that concept. But first, we need to set the scene. Today is February 14, 2026.
Right.
Happy Valentine's Day to everyone listening.
A fitting holiday, considering this is a story about love, brotherly love, tough love, and sometimes very toxic love.
Oh, for sure. And as we sit here today, on Valentine's Day 2026, the story has come full circle. Jimmy Uso and his brother Jay are the current World Tag Team Champions.
Their 9th reign.
9 times. Can you believe that? They reunited late last year, 2025, and they are back at the summit of the division.
Back on top.
So the mission for this deep dive is clear. We have a mountain of sources, career retrospectives, title histories, legal records, and match results. We're going to trace the arc of Jimmy Uso. How does a guy go from a face-painted rookie struggling to get TV time to the right-hand man to the guy who literally kicked the tribal chief in the face and finally to the redeemed champion we see today?
It is a study in identity. That is the thread we need to pull. Identity within a massive family, identity as a twin, and identity as a solo performer in a team sport.
Right.
And to understand the pressure cooker that created Jimmy Uso, we have to start with the bloodline lowercase before we get to the bloodline.
Right. You cannot separate the man from the tree. The Anoa'i dynasty. This isn't just a wrestling family. This is the wrestling industrial complex.
It is the bedrock of the WWE. It really is. Jonathan Fatu was born in San Francisco in 1985. He is the son of Salofa Fatu Jr., better known as the Hall of Famer Rikishi.
The guy with the stink face.
The very same. But zoom out. His uncles were the Wild Samoans, Offa and Sika.
Legends.
Absolute legends. His cousins include Yokozuna, Umaga, Roman Reigns, and of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
That is just insane. When you're born into that, you aren't just expected to be athletic.
No.
You are expected to understand the business from the moment you take your first breath. It's in your DNA.
It has to be. And here is a detail that I think shapes his entire psychology, and it's something people overlook. He is the older twin.
By 9 minutes.
9 minutes.
9 minutes. In the grand scheme of the universe, that's a blink. But in a Polynesian family structure, and specifically in the psychology of the Fatu brothers, those 9 minutes matter. He is the big brother.
He is the protector.
He's the one who's supposed to look out for Jay.
And that responsibility weighs on him. You see it play out over and over again for the next 15 years.
It's true.
Interestingly, though, wrestling wasn't the immediate plan A. He played college football at the University of West Alabama. He was a linebacker.
A linebacker. Okay, let's pause on that.
Yeah.
Because when I watch Jimmy Uso wrestle, specifically compared to Jay or Roman, I see a linebacker. I really do.
Absolutely. Think about what a linebacker does. Their job isn't to plan the whole defense. Their job is to read the offense, they fill the gap, and they explode through the target.
Right, it's all reaction.
It is reactive and explosive. Jimmy isn't a technical wizard who is going to, twist your wrist for 20 minutes.
Oh.
He is a striker. He reads the flow of the match, and then bam, that explosiveness, that sort of short area quickness comes directly from the gridiron.
So let's fast forward to 2010. They get signed. They go through FCW Florida Championship Wrestling, which was the developmental territory before NXT became the juggernaut it is today.
Right, the old school.
And they debut on the main roster. Now, for the listeners who weren't watching Raw in 2010, we need to paint this picture because this wasn't the cool hoodie-wearing day one-ish team.
Not at all. Not even close. This was, well, it was very traditional, almost retro.
That's a nice way of putting it.
They debuted with Tamina Snuka, and they came out performing the Siva Tau.
Which is the traditional Samoan war dance.
Right. Similar to the haka that people know from New Zealand rugby. Culturally, it is incredibly significant. It is a warrior's challenge. It's power.
In real life, yes.
But in the context of 2010 WWE sports entertainment, it felt performative. It felt like a gimmick.
Here, the Samoans doing the Samoan thing.
Exactly. It lacked a certain personal authenticity. It felt like they were playing a role that was assigned to them.
And then they added the face paint.
Which, again, was rooted in love. It was a tribute to their late uncle Umaga, who had passed away just a few months before they debuted. It was a respectful nod to their heritage and to him.
Which is a beautiful gesture.
It is. But from a character standpoint, it rendered them anonymous. They were just these two identical guys with painted faces, bright colors, big smiles.
They were the bright, smiling, high-flying baby faces.
Let's define babyface quickly for the uninitiated.
Sure. Simply put, the good guys. The ones you're supposed to cheer for.
But in wrestling psychology, a smiling babyface who just seems happy to be there is often the kiss of death unless they're winning everything. And the Usos...
They were not winning.
They were losing a lot.
I was looking at the match records from 2010 to 2013. It is a grind.
Yeah.
I mean, a real slog. They were regulars on WWE Superstars.
Yeah.
Which was basically the C show that aired online or late at night.
Yeah, if you were on that show, you weren't in the main plans.
No. And they're losing to teams that don't even exist in the memory banks of most fans. It was rough.
It speaks to the second-generation curse. Promoters often assume that if you have a famous last name, you don't need character development.
Right. The name will do the work.
They think, oh, they're Rikishi's kids. Put them in the ring, have them do a splash. The crowd will get it. But the crowd didn't connect emotionally. They respected the athleticism, sure.
I mean, they were always great athletes.
Always. But they didn't care about the people. There was no depth to latch onto.
It took them 4 years to win gold. 4 years. They didn't win the tag team championships until 2014.
In wrestling years, 4 years is a lifetime. Most teams break up, get released, or get repackaged by then.
For sure.
But they stuck it out. That 2014 win on Raw was significant. It felt like, okay, finally.
It was a relief.
It kicked off a period where they won Tag Team of the Year Slammies in 2014 and 2015. They were colorful. They were kid-friendly. They sold a lot of merchandise. They were, a solid part of the show.
They were the safe team.
Yeah.
If you needed a good match to open the show, send the Usos. If you needed to get the crowd hyped after a boring segment, send the Usos. But they weren't main eventers.
They hit a glass ceiling, and a very low one at that. And by 2016, the landscape of the industry was shifting. We were moving away from the PG, family-friendly vibe into something grittier.
The reality era.
The reality era was taking hold. Fans wanted authenticity. They wanted characters that felt real. Two guys in neon shorts with painted faces just didn't fit the vibe anymore. The act was stale.
And it was getting really, really stale. Which brings us to the pivot. I argue this is the most important moment in their career before the Bloodline. September 2016. The turn.
Agreed. 100%. They were in a tournament to crown the first SmackDown Tag Team Champions after the brand split. They wrestled American Alpha Jason Jordan and Chad Gable, a great babyface team. The Usos lost. And usually the code of the Usos meant you shake hands and walk away.
You smile and wave to the crowd.
Not this time.
No. This time was different.
No. They attacked them. They chop-blocked Gable's knee after the match. It was vicious. It was mean. It was so out of character for them.
The crowd was genuinely shocked.
And the next week, the presentation change was shocking. It was a complete 180.
Gone was the paint. Gone were the bright colors. The Siva towel was gone.
They walked out in black hoodies, baggy shorts, sneakers. They looked like they just walked off the street in San Francisco. They looked real.
This is the day one-ish era. And honestly, this is where Jimmy Uso, the performer, really woke up.
Oh, completely. They stopped playing the Usos and started being Jonathan and Joshua Fatu. They incorporated their real-life cadence, their slang.
Their promos suddenly became can't miss.
They started cutting promos that sounded like threats, not scripts. And mechanically, inside the ring, they changed their style completely.
How so? What was the big shift?
They grounded it. They became brawlers. They swapped out some of the high-flying splashes for the super kick. Now, the super kick is a common move, popularized by Shawn Michaels, but the Usos mastered the timing of it.
They made it their own.
They used it as a disruption tool, a match ender. They started calling their whole style the Uso Penitentiary. It was a lockdown style. Once they got you, you weren't getting away.
And this stylistic shift led to the rivalry that I think defines modern tag team wrestling. The Usos versus the New Day.
The absolute gold standard. If you want to understand tag team wrestling, you watch that trilogy of matches in 2017. There's no better example.
Why was it so effective? What made that chemistry so special?
Contrast. Pure and simple. You had the New Day Big E, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, who were over-the-top positivity, playing trombones, wearing unicorn horns, bright colors.
Right, they were fun.
They were a blast, and you had these gritty, monochrome, angry Usos. It was the perfect clash of philosophies. But beyond that, the trust level between those five guys was off the charts.
You could feel it. They knew exactly where the other would be at all times.
And that trust allowed them to innovate.
The Hell in a Cell match in 2017. That is a match I still think about. It was unbelievably brutal.
It was a masterpiece of violence and psychology. There is a moment where they trap Xavier Woods in the corner of the cell using kendo sticks.
Oh, I remember that.
It was innovative, it was brutal, and it was uncomfortable to watch. It was something no one had ever seen before.
And here's the fascinating thing about wrestling psychology. The fans, who were supposed to boo the Usos for being bad guys,
They started cheering them.
respect.
Exactly. You can only be that good for that long before the audience respects the work rate. They were just too good to boo.
Talent transcended the heel-face dynamic.
It did, and that led to the respect arc. There is a moment in March 2019 that I want to highlight because it's so important for their future character development. Kofi Kingston is trying to get his title shot at WrestleMania. Kofi Mania is running wild. He has to survive a gauntlet match. The Usos are the final hurdle. They are ordered by Vince McMahon to go out there and stop him.
And instead, they walked to the ring and grabbed the microphone.
They say, "We fought wars with you. You earned our respect. We forfeit."
That gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah.
That moment was huge.
It added so much depth to Jimmy and Jay. It showed they weren't just thugs or henchmen. They had a code. They had honor. And that complexity, that idea that family and respect matter more than orders, is the perfect foundation for what came next.
The bloodline.
The bloodline.
So let's move into the saga that changed everything.
Yeah.
The year is 2020. The world has changed. We're in the pandemic era. Roman Reigns returns at SummerSlam as the tribal chief.
A whole new persona.
The dominant, terrifying persona. He goes after his cousin Jay.
Yeah.
But where was Jimmy?
Jimmy was on the shelf, and this is a crucial detail that people forget. At WrestleMania 36, in the ladder match, Jimmy suffered a legitimate ACL tear, a really bad one. He was out of action for over a year.
So the bloodline starts without him.
It had to. The entire narrative of Roman Reigns gaslighting and abusing Jey Uso into becoming main event Jey only happened because Jimmy wasn't there to protect his little brother.
Jay had to face the monster alone.
Completely alone. There was no big brother to back him up, to tell him he wasn't crazy. Roman had him isolated.
So when Jimmy finally returns in May 2021, he is walking into a completely different movie. The whole world has changed for his family.
He is a time traveler. He left in 2020 when Roman was still the big dog.
Right.
He remembers the old Roman, the cousin they played video games with. He comes back and sees Jay acting like a servant, walking on eggshells, calling Roman tribal chief.
And Jimmy's immediate reaction wasn't fear. It was mockery.
Complete mockery. He thought it was ridiculous.
A nobody's bitch shirt.
He wore a t-shirt that literally said nobody's bitch. He was the resistance. He tried to tell Jay, man, wake up. He's using you. This isn't who we are.
He was the voice of the audience, really.
He was. But, and this is the tragedy of the character, the gravity of the tribal chief was too strong. Roman had Jay too deep under his spell. Eventually, Jimmy realized that he couldn't beat Roman and he couldn't leave Jay alone with him.
So if he can't beat him...
You join him. To protect his brother, he fell in line. He acknowledged the tribal chief.
And once he fell in line, absolute dominance.
Statistical absurdity. If they united the Raw and SmackDown titles, they held those belts for 622 days.
622 days. That broke the record previously held by the New Day. They were the longest reigning male tag team champions in WWE history.
It's an untouchable record, most likely. They beat everyone, the Street Profits, the Mysterios, RK Bro. It didn't matter who you put in front of them.
And the match quality was incredible. That match against the Street Profits at SummerSlam 2022 with Jeff Jarrett as the special referee.
Technical perfection.
Yeah.
That was a masterclass. They isolated Montez Ford. They cut off the ring. It was old school tag team psychology with modern athleticism.
They were the end bosses of the division.
Completely. There was no one on their level.
But while they were winning in the ring, the seeds of destruction were being sown outside of it. And those seeds had a name, Sami Zayn.
The honorary Us. This is where we really see the difference between Jimmy and Jay. This whole storyline highlighted their individual personalities like never before.
Break that down for us.
When Sami started hanging around the Bloodline, Jay hated him. Jay is naturally distrustful of outsiders. He saw Sami as a clown trying to use them.
He was the guard dog.
Exactly. But Jimmy thought Sami was hilarious. Jimmy was the cool older brother who invited the weird kid to sit at the cool table. He was the one doing the elaborate handshakes with Sami.
He coined the term Usi.
He made Sami feel Usi. He was the bridge. He's the reason Sami was ever accepted into the group.
He smoothed things over. He was the bridge between Sami and the family, especially between Sami and Jay.
Which makes the betrayal at the Royal Rumble 2023 so much more heartbreaking.
Oh, man. Let's set the scene. Royal Rumble 2023. The Bloodline has just destroyed Kevin Owens. Roman has handcuffed him to the ropes and is about to smash his head with a chair.
It's a brutal, emotional scene. And Roman hands a steel chair to Sami Zayn and tells him to finish his best friend.
The ultimate test of loyalty.
It is the ultimate test of loyalty. And Sami fails, or passes, depending on your perspective. He hits Roman in the back with the chair.
The crowd explodes. I've never heard a sound like that. It is deafening.
And in that moment of chaos, look at the brothers. Jey Uso, who had finally warmed up to Sami, who saw him as a brother, is so devastated he just walks out, he leaves. He refuses to participate.
But Jimmy
doesn't hesitate. For a fraction of a second, he's shocked. But as soon as Sami hits Roman, Jimmy super kicks Sami. He mounts him and rains down punches. He screams, "You betrayed us! You betrayed the family!"
Why? Why was Jimmy the one to turn when he was the one who liked Sami the most? It felt like such a swerve.
Because for Jimmy Uso, family is a hierarchy, not a feeling. Sami was a friend. Roman is blood. Roman is the chief. When the structure of the family was attacked, Jimmy's linebacker instinct kicked in. React. Protect the chief. Eliminate the threat.
That's a great point. It's that reactive nature again.
It showed that despite his earlier resistance, he was now fully indoctrinated into the system. Loyalty to the structure trumped personal affection.
But that indoctrination, it had a shelf life.
Yeah.
Because Roman kept pushing. He never knows when to stop.
Roman is a narcissist. After WrestleMania 39, where the Usos finally lost the titles to Sami and Kevin Owens, Roman turned on them. He treated them like failures.
He blamed them for the loss.
He stopped talking to them. He only communicated through the younger brother, Solo Sikoa. He completely disrespected them.
He was disrespecting the elders. And that, in that family structure, is the ultimate sin. And that leads us to the moment. Night of Champions, May 2023, Saudi Arabia.
The shot heard round the world. Roman and Solo are wrestling Sami and Kevin. Roman is in the ring berating the Usos who tried to interfere and help. He shoves Jimmy in the face. He shoves him again. He treats him like a child.
And Jimmy snaps.
It wasn't a calculated plan. It wasn't a long con. You can see it in his eyes. It was pure reactive emotion. He just couldn't take it anymore. He super kicks Roman Reigns.
The look on Roman's face, he looked like he had seen a ghost. Like that was the one thing he never thought could happen.
And then Jimmy does it again, for good measure.
And he screams that line to Jay. What was it?
"I'm doing what you should have done a long time ago."
That is the key, isn't it? He took the bullet. Jay was the one who had the emotional turmoil for a year, but Jimmy was the one who finally pulled the trigger.
He did. He knew that attacking the tribal chief was death within the family, but he did it to show Jay that the emperor had no clothes. He sacrificed his standing to free his brother.
This launched the Bloodline Civil War. Money in the Bank 2023. London. The Usos versus Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa.
I will go on record saying this is the most emotionally resonant tag team match of the decade. The crowd in London was electric. They were singing for the Usos from the moment they came out.
The atmosphere was unbelievable, and the finish, historic.
Jey Uso pins Roman Reigns.
Let's repeat that. Jey Uso pins Roman Reigns.
The first time Roman had been pinned since December 2019. 3.5 years of invincibility ended by his own cousins.
It felt like the happy ending. The brothers were free. They had humbled the tyrant. The credits could have rolled right there.
But wrestling doesn't do happy endings that easily, because then we get to SummerSlam 2023. And this is where the chaotic stabilizer theory really comes into play. This is the moment.
This is the twist that broke people's brains initially. It confused so many people, myself included.
Jey Uso is fighting Roman for the Undisputed Championship and the title of Tribal Chief. It's tribal combat. Jey is about to win. He has Roman beat. He hits the Uso splash.
1, 2, and a man in a hoodie pulls him out of the ring. And it's Jimmy.
Jimmy betrays his twin brother. He super kicks him in the face and throws him back in the ring. He costs him the match. Roman retains.
The internet was furious. People were saying, this makes no sense. Why would he rejoin Roman? This undoes everything.
But he didn't rejoin Roman. Not really. That was the misunderstanding. On SmackDown the next week, he came out to explain it.
And the explanation was just wild.
He said, I did it because I love you. I did it to protect you. I didn't want you to become him.
Break that down. I didn't want you to become him. What does that mean?
Jimmy's logic was twisted, but deep. He saw what the power of the tribal chief did to Roman. It turned him into a monster. It destroyed their family. Jimmy believed that if Jay won, Jay would get that power, and that power would corrupt him too.
So he would lose his brother either way.
Exactly. Jimmy would rather have a brother who hates him than a brother who is a monster. He would rather Jay be Jay than the new tribal chief.
So he sabotaged Jay's success to save Jay's soul.
That's it, perfectly put. It is the logic of a chaotic protector. He created chaos to maintain a status quo where his brother was safe, even if he wasn't champion. It's an act of love, but a destructive, selfish one.
But of course, Jay didn't see it that way.
Of course not. Jay super kicked him and quit the company, moving to Raw. He was done with all of them.
Which left Jimmy alone on SmackDown. And this began his lost period, the wilderness.
Late 2023 into early 2024. This was hard to watch. Jimmy tried to crawl back to Roman. He was desperate for belonging. He's acting like a jester, trying to make Roman laugh, trying to high-five Solo Sikoa, who just glared at him.
It was pathetic, but intentionally so. You could see the character had no identity anymore.
He was a man without a country. He betrayed Jay, but Roman didn't fully trust him. He was in purgatory.
And then the bill came due. WrestleMania XL, April 2024. Roman loses the title to Cody Rhodes. The Empire falls. The whole thing comes crashing down.
And Solo Sikoa decides it is time for a hostile takeover. He doesn't see the fall of Roman as a tragedy. He sees it as an opportunity.
Yeah, power vacuum.
And he introduces a new savage element, Tama Tonga.
The new bloodline.
And their first order of business on the SmackDown after Mania was to purge the weakness. And in Solo's eyes, the biggest weakness was Jimmy.
Because he lost his match to Jay at Mania.
Exactly. They beat Jimmy down. It was brutal. They smashed him into a car. That wrote Jimmy off television for months with a legit injury angle.
The exile.
He sat at home. And this is where the absence makes the heart grow fonder rule applies in wrestling. While he was gone, this new bloodline solo, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, and eventually the werewolf Jacob Fatu became these vicious, unhinged villains.
They were just pure evil, no nuance.
None. And the fans started to miss the old dynamic. They missed the yeet. They missed the energy of the Usos. They even missed the complicated dynamic with Roman.
So when he returned, Bad Blood 2024.
The pop was deafening. He came back not for revenge on Solo, but to help Roman. Roman Reigns, the guy he super kicked, the guy whose empire he helped crumble, but they were united by a common enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
That hug between Roman and Jimmy, it was complex. You could see it on their faces. It wasn't total forgiveness, but it was an acknowledgement of survival.
Truth.
But the puzzle wasn't complete. They were still outnumbered. They needed the third piece. They needed Jay.
And this was the emotional hook of late 2024. The story became about redemption. Jimmy had to go to Raw, hat in hand, and beg Jay for forgiveness, and Jay wasn't having it.
Nor should he have. I mean, come on. Jimmy cost him the biggest match of his life based on some twisted logic.
Exactly. It was realistic. You don't just forgive a betrayal like that because you need a tag partner. Jimmy had to earn it. He had to show humility. He had to take a few beatings on G's behalf.
But eventually, the bond of twins is undeniable. October 25, 2024, SmackDown. The new bloodline is beating down Jimmy and Roman.
Kanji's music hits. He makes the save. The three of them stand in the ring. The crowd is going insane, and they hug. The OG bloodline is back.
Which led to Survivor Series, War Games. The OG bloodline Roman, Jimmy G, and Sami Zayn reunited against the new guys. And CM Punk, randomly.
And CM Punk, yes, they won. It felt like the closing of a massive multi-year chapter.
And the opening of a new one. Which brings us to the present. December 2025, they officially reunite as the Usos tag team. And on December 29, 2025, they defeat AJ Styles and Dragon Lee to win the World Tag Team Championship, their 9th reign.
It is historic. It proves that despite all the drama, despite the betrayals and the injuries, when they are on the same page, they are the best tag team on the planet, period.
So that is the career arc, an incredible story. But I want to take a step sideways for a second. We have to talk about the man outside the ring. Because Jimmy Jonathan Fatu has had a life that is just as public and sometimes just as turbulent as his character.
It is important to discuss this impartially because it is part of the story. You can't separate the art from the artist entirely here, especially when real life bleeds into the show.
For sure.
Jimmy has had legal struggles, specifically a series of DUI arrests over the years, 2011, 2013, 2019, 2021.
Yeah, and we aren't here to judge, but those were serious moments. They affected the storylines.
They absolutely did. We mentioned earlier about the day one-ish era, but later on, during the Bloodline Saga, there were logistical consequences. For example, Elimination Chamber 2023 was in Montreal, Canada.
Right, where Sami Zayn got the hero's welcome.
And Canada has very strict entry laws regarding DUIs.
So Jimmy couldn't go.
Correct. He was legally barred from entering the country. The writers had to craft the storyline around the fact that one of their main characters literally could not be at the show. It added a layer of fragility to his spot. Every time he got in trouble, fans wondered, is this it? Is this the one that gets him released?
But he always came back.
He did. And he seems to have done the work to get back to a stable place. You haven't heard about any issues for years now. And his relationship with his wife, Trinity, known to fans as Naomi, has been a huge part of that stability.
They are the power couple. They've been together forever. And huge news from back in August 2025. They announced they are expecting their first child together.
That is a massive milestone. It shifts your perspective. You aren't just living for the next match or the after party anymore. You are living for the next generation. I think that maturity is showing in his current work in 2026. He seems more focused. He seems happier.
Absolutely. And we can't forget his most important role, starring as a robot in the Jetsons movie.
The Usobots, a cinematic masterpiece, a cornerstone of his legacy.
Absolutely essential viewing for any deep dive. But seriously, when you look at the full picture, the struggles with the law, the pressure of the family name, the injuries, it makes his resilience pretty incredible.
It does. It makes him human. Roman Reigns is often presented as a god or a mythological figure. Jey Uso is presented as the heart, the emotional core. But Jimmy is the flawed human being who makes mistakes, falls down, gets back up, makes another mistake, and keeps trying.
That is why people relate to him. He isn't perfect.
Not even close. And that's okay.
So let's look at where we are right now. It is February 2026. They are the champs. They just had a feud with Carmelo Hayes earlier this year. What does this 9th reign represent for them? Is it just another notch on the belt?
I don't think so. I think it represents validation. For a long time, people thought the Bloodline story would end with the Usos fighting each other forever or one of them retiring. But this reunion signifies that the bond of brotherhood is stronger than the storyline conflict. They are back to doing what they do best, dominating the tag division.
And looking at the landscape, the division is stacked. You have the new Bloodline still lurking. You have teams like AJ Styles and Dragon Lee.
Mm-hmm.
But the Usos are the standard.
They are the end bosses of tag team wrestling now. If you want to be a champion, you have to go through the Fatu brothers. That's the rule.
Okay, I want to circle back to your theory from the top of the show.
Yeah.
The chaotic stabilizer. Because I feel like he is arguably the most complex character in that whole saga.
I stand by that. I really do.
We usually think of Roman as the complex one, the gaslighter, the narcissist.
Yeah.
But Jimmy, he started the rebellion, then he ruined the rebellion, and then he united the family. It's a wild ride.
Think about his driving force in every major decision. It is balance. When Roman was too tyrannical, when the family was out of balance, Jimmy rebelled to restore balance.
Right.
But when Jey was about to become the tribal chief, Jimmy saw that as a new imbalance. He didn't want his brother to lose his soul to that power, so he sabotaged it. He is constantly trying to keep the family in a state of equilibrium, even if his methods are destructive.
It's such a cool way to look at it. He's not a villain. He's not a hero. He's a regulator.
A regulator who isn't afraid to break things to fix them. And in the end, look at the result. Roman is no longer the tyrant. He's a babyface now, humbled. Jey is his own man, a main event star, and the family is united against a common foe. Jimmy's jagged, chaotic path actually got them to the promised land.
That is mind-blowing. And you have to give credit to Jonathan Fatu, the performer. To pull that off, to make the audience cheer you, then boo you out of the building, then cheer you again, requires a level of charisma that you can't teach.
No, you can't.
That is the Anoa'i gene right there.
Absolutely. He has an innate connection with the crowd. He knows exactly when to sell, when to fire up, and when to be vulnerable. You believe him in every role he plays.
So as we wrap this up, what is the so what for the listener? Why does Jimmy Uso matter in the grand scheme of wrestling history?
He matters because he proved that you can evolve. You aren't stuck being who you were 10 years ago. He went from a face-painted rookie just happy to be on the card, to a record-breaking champion, to a main event storyteller who drove the biggest angle in modern wrestling.
And he elevated the medium? He elevated tag team wrestling itself.
He did. Before the Usos, tag team wrestling in WWE was often treated as a side dish. It was the popcorn match. The Usos, through their work with the New Day and the Bloodline, made tag team wrestling the main course.
Right.
They main evented WrestleMania Night 1. They proved that a tag team story could be the story of the company. That is a paradigm shift.
That is the legacy. They changed the perception of the division forever.
And personally, for Jimmy, it is a story of redemption. He has faced legal issues, injuries, and being overshadowed by his family members. But here he is, in 2026, holding the gold, waiting for a child, and standing tall as a legend in his own right.
It's a heck of a story. And frankly, with the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if we are sitting here in 5 years talking about their 15th title reign.
Laughs. I wouldn't bet against them. They have plenty of gas left in the tank.
Well, there you have it. The rise, fall, and rise again of Jimmy Uso. If you haven't seen it in a while, do yourself a favor. Go back and watch the Bloodline Civil War tag match from Money in the Bank 2023. It is a masterclass in storytelling, and Jimmy Uso is right at the center of it all.
A perfect recommendation. Watch his face during the match, the conflict, the anger, the love for his brother. It's all there.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next one. Until then, keep watching.
Take care.